Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Israel, and this is Parashat Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah, Genesis 23:1 to 25:19. This one's called The Sounds of Silence. Not the song, although it's a good song. When a righteous person dies, a heavenly light goes out, and the world becomes just a little bit darker. When a righteous person passes on from this world, the forces of darkness are given the opportunity to gain the upper hand. When a righteous person leaves this world, the heavens and the earth weep. The heavens would say, "The pious have perished from the land. Avad chasid min haaretz," and the earth would say, "There is no upright among men. V'yashar ba'adam ein kulam." And the life of Sarah was 100 years, and 20 years, and 7 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, which is Chevon, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to bewail her. Ve'yu Chayei Sarah me'ah shana ve'esrim shana ve'sheva shanim shnei Chayei Sarah. ותמת שרה בקריית ארבע, הוא חברון בארץ כנען, ויבוא אברהם לספוד לשרה ולבכותה. As we know, or at least as we discussed last year, Sarah died the moment Isaac survived the altar. The Satan first told her that he was being sacrificed, and that broke her heart. And then he surprised her with the good news, which is when her soul was overjoyed and it departed from her body. Now, where were Abraham and Sarah living at the time of the binding? Where did Abraham leave from? He left from Beersheba. Now, we can read this in the last chapter, 22:19. After all was done, they returned there. And Abraham returned to his young men, Ishmael and Eliezer, who he left behind. And they arose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham remained in Beersheba. Now, when he says remained in Beersheba, it means that that's where his permanent place was. A lot of things took place, which we will see now in future parashot, during the last 2 chapters over here of this parasha. So we'll get to that in the future. Right now, how did Sarah end up in Chevon, aka Kiryat Arba, the borough of 4? Well, because she went out looking as to where Abraham went. She knew it was in the direction of Mount Moriah. Go to the areas of the Moriah, right? The area of Moriah, and I'll let you know which mountain to go to. And Abraham saw the fiery flame and everything. But God only showed him that once he got close to the area. So she started out in that direction, and Chevron is right in between Beersheba and Jerusalem. So that's logical, it's a regular road leading up to Jerusalem. She, of course, got the good news while in Chevron and died right there. The Satan told her in Beersheba, "Your son's going to be sacrificed by your husband." Oh no. She headed out there, and then in Chevron, boom, that's when he's head. Psych, he's okay. All right. Now, while this may seem like a terrible thing, it's actually not. You have to understand the righteousness of Sarah, who rectified Eve. Yeah, Chava, just like Abraham rectified Adam. So we can read that while she pushed for Abraham to have relations with Hagar, although he didn't want to at the time, because he was waiting for the promise of God, right? He said, "Through you and Sarah, you're going to have a son." She said, "Do it." He said, "No." And what happened? Nevertheless, when Abraham turned to God, it was told to him, "Do everything that your wife said." I myself mistakenly saw this as a lack of faith on her part, to which I am terribly sorry, and I publicly repent for even thinking such foolishness. Okay? Sarah knew that Abraham would never consider another woman. She knows her husband. She knows who this man is, the man who the heavens and the earth were created for this guy. And that's why she brought the matter of taking Hagar's son as her own. Because otherwise, there's no way he would have taken another wife. And very clearly finished the conversation with, "Let the Lord judge between you and I." She knew exactly how to speak to him. Sarah saw what Abraham could not. As we have discussed several times in the past, how within even the Sfirot themselves, there is a good and there is a bad, a positive and a negative. They're both necessary, okay? But you have to choose the right one. And while Abraham perfected the good side of chesed, which is giving in abundance, he also had to remove from himself the bad side, the negative side of chesed, which is taking in abundance, uncontrollably, i.e., thou shalt not steal or thou shalt not covet. That's what that was for, which is the very same prohibition, prohibiting command that God gave the ministering angel of Ishmael when he presented the Torah. God is always fair. When the angel of Ishmael saw this, he said, "No way, Jose. Our whole thing is coveting and stealing, right? That's where we get our strength. We don't want it. Give it to Israel, because if they don't steal and they don't covet, how will they possibly survive?" Sarah knew that the negative side of chesed had to leave Abraham before Isaac would even come into the world. You see? And so it came to pass that Ishmael was born. Until this very day, Ishmael, Islam, he covets what is not his and steals what was given to others, right? Again, look at the world. I'm not making this stuff up. Just to complete the explanation in this case, just in case you missed the previous teachings on this, when Isaac was born, he received and perfected chesed, from the perfected chesed from Abraham. And he himself became gevurah, judgment. Once he was upon the altar, that was his thing. That's when most of his soul was already in heaven. Isaac was more in heaven than he was here on earth. And again, there is a positive side and a negative side to judgment. The positive side are the laws, God's laws. There are boundaries. These things are like this. There's no gray area. There is yes, no. There's truth or lies, period. That is judgment. It is righteous judgment also, according to the Torah. While the negative side is, of course, bloodshed, right? Bloodshed was blood, is Rome, Christianity, all that stuff. Esav. And so there were twins. The wicked Esav, Edom, who received the negative part of judgment. He lived by the sword. He was a hunter. He was a man of the field. Blood, that was his thing. And Yaakov, Israel, who received the best parts of both chesed and gevurah and became tiferet, splendor. Anyway, this was Sarah's foresight, which was necessary to balance Abraham's insight. You understand? Abraham understood how everything worked, but Sarah could see beyond, and together they were the perfect pair, right? Again, going back to Islam and Christianity, just look at the wars and the battles and how they raged up until this very day. The world has been shaped by them, and it started from way back when. And this was written, 3,800 years ago. Anyway, all this stuff, this is given to us here in the Parsha. And so Sarah was indeed connected to her son Isaac, because she saw what had to happen before he was born. And he was 37 years old at the time of the binding and the time of her passing. Now look at this. Vayu Chayei Sarah 100 shana ו20 shana ו70 shanim shnei Chayei Sarah. It's a very strange way to also say the life of Sarah, but okay. There are many different interpretations. I just want to show you one thing. Vayu, the first word over here, translates to as were, and the life of Sarah was, or as were, has a numerical value of 37. Because although she was alive for 90 years, she was 90 when she gave birth, right? 90 years prior to giving birth, once she brought Isaac into this world, is when she truly lived. So we read this as 37 years was Sarah alive, and the years of her life were 127. You see this? So when his soul left him, Isaac, her soul left her. And Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, which is Chevon in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to bewail her. The borough of 4, Kiryat Arba. We know how she ended up there, but we're about to discuss why. It was her destiny to be buried at the entrance of the gate of heaven. I discussed the significance of how this all came to pass in the teaching of, I think it's Parashat Chayei, titled The Gates of Heaven. So for more details, please check that one out as well. It'll definitely help. Why 4? Kiryat Arba. Why? There are several reasons. You have Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah, and Adam and Eve are buried there. You have the four couples who are buried there. You also have the word Adonai, Lord, my Lord, has 4 letters, and also the name Yud Kei Vav Kei has 4 letters. And why Chevon, meaning lechaber, to connect, right? The couples are connected. Adonai and the Yud Kei Vav Kei are connected. They're all one. Heaven and earth, through Abraham, are connected. And the Garden of Eden and the Temple Mount are connected. Again, go back and watch that other teaching. Chevron is also called Kiryat Melech Rav, the borough of a great king. But I thought the great king dwelt in Jerusalem. And this is why, as discussed in the Gates of Heaven, that Chevron and Jerusalem are indeed connected. We can even read it in Psalms 48. Listen to the words. A song, a psalms of the sons of Korach. The Lord is great and very much praised in the city of our God, the mount of his sanctuary. We know the city of our God, mount of his sanctuary. City is Jerusalem, the mount is Temple Mount. The fairest of branches, the joy of the entire earth, Mount Zion. There you go. By the north side, the city of a great king. You understand? In other words, all these places are the north of the city of the great king. Now this could mean 2 things, okay? There is the city of David, which is directly south, and then there is Chevron, which is even more south of Temple Mount. Anyway, they're both related to David. God is in his palaces. In other words, there are several. He is known as a stronghold. Now, before David ruled 33 years from Jerusalem in the city of David, which is directly south of Temple Mount, he ruled from Chevron for the first 7 years of his reign, totaling at the significant number of 40. Now, as we had discussed in the Gates of Heaven, the teachings of the Gates of Heaven, Abraham found the cave of the Machpelah, the doubles, the multiplied, when in Chevron, because his bull ran away from him when he wanted to slaughter it for the angels that came to visit him in last week's Parsha. He was sitting in Alonei Mamre. It wasn't necessarily in Beersheba. It was around the Chevron area. Genesis 18:7. And to the cattle did run Abraham, and he took a calf. Ve'el habakar ratz Avraham. He ran, and we discussed that nothing happens by accident, which by now, get that in your head, into your heart, and understand this. Nothing happens by accident. Even the smallest inconvenience is all by design. So because Abraham was about to host angels, there's no way that the cattle that was about to be slaughtered for such a high thing would run away from him. And so he understood something was out. And what happened? The moment he chased the bull, the calf, that ran away, ran right into Me'arat HaMachpelah, into the cave, where he saw who? What? He saw Adam and Eve, as well as smelling the fragrance of the Garden of Eden. He was the only one who could do this, by the way. Now, guess what? The first thing we see when we pass on, when we die, is Adam. And why Adam? Because we're all made up of one single soul, and that begins with him, okay? My soul is not my original soul. It's fragments of fragments of fragments with other combinations of other souls. Why am I here? To rectify that soul that it ultimately belongs to one man, Adam. Adam received one soul, shattering of the vessels, and so on and so forth. We've discussed this before. Adam then asks us why we sinned, to which you're probably thinking, dude, look who's talking. I'm here because of you. To which Adam would then say, my son, I sinned one single time in the Garden of Eden. How many sins have you done in your life? This is where we shut our mouths and take what's coming. Our sages say that when Abraham who was of the living saw Adam and Eve, they were ashamed because of him. Again, he was the only person who beheld Adam while he was still alive. No one else could do this. That means he was technically supposed to die. He was at that point, but it wasn't his time. Never forget Genesis 2:4, okay? The heavens and the earth, the earth and the heavens. And Abraham is right there holding it all in place. They were ashamed of him. They understood. They both knew that the world was created for the sake of this man that is before them. And what he did at that moment was pray to God to remember their shame no more, to remove their shame. For 38 years, he sat on this knowledge. 38 years, right? This happened when he was 99. Now he's 137 years old. 136, excuse me. 38 years. For 38 years he knew. 38 years, 137, excuse me. For 38 years he knew that he and his wife and his son and his wife and his son's wife and his grandson and his wife would be buried there. He knew exactly who would be buried there. And what did he do? He took the calf back and he focused on hachnasat orchim, and welcoming the guests, because that will happen when it happens. I know this now, but now I'm going to focus on what is right in front of me. Take notes, okay? Don't worry about that. You know that's yours, then it'll come. But the only way for you to get there is to come here and to focus on what's here. It's the same concept with Lot, right? Last week we discussed how when the angels came to save Lot, when he said, "Come, get into my house," they said, "No, we'll sleep in the street." He was still not worthy of being saved. But when he begged them the second time, that's when he was worthy. Same concept with Abraham. If Abraham would not have served them with the kind of zeal that he did, even though they were on their way to give him that good news, he would not have been worthy to receive the son. You understand? It has nothing to do with only where you are, but what you are going to do, and it's happening simultaneously. Good things are always coming at you, and you have to continue doing good things in order to receive them. It's riding that wave. Everything shifts, you have to shift with it. And this is what's happening here, and this is what's happening now. Okay. So, this man was not freaked out. He didn't start buying the land. "Oh, I need this land right now. These guys can wait, but I got to secure this." No, he had perfect faith that God had everything under control, and he knew that nothing happens without purpose. The cattle never ran from Abraham, as they knew that for the first time in the history of the world, a man would be able to elevate its spirit to holy. Never been done before like that. Angels have never been served food before. He was performing a tikkun for Adam. And now that Sarah died in that very area, in that very place, this was a confirmation for Abraham regarding what he already knew, that now, all those years later, 38 years later, now is the time to act. Here we go. Proverbs 20:21, an inheritance may be acquired hastily in the beginning, but its end will not be blessed. נחלה מבוחלת בראשונה, ואחריתה לא תבורך. Here's your inheritance, but you have to earn it, you have to work for it. If you take the whole thing, it will not be blessed in the end. He waited. There's no greater waiter on the Lord than Abraham. Abraham, yes, God, go here, cool. Catch you later, word. Go there, cool. I'll give you everything. Right on. I'll give you a son. Much obliged. Again, are you taking notes? Abraham does not wait 1 second when he sees the opening. Give me your son. On it. He knows that it was already given to him. And so now he has to work for it. Just like the Torah. Just like the land of Israel. Morasha Keilat Yaakov. Yeah, it's been given to us. And only to us. But we have to work for it and we have to earn it. And Abraham arose from before his dead. And he spoke to the sons of Chet, saying, So not only did he physically rise from weeping over his beloved soulmate Sarah, but his spirit rose as well in order for him to focus on the actual burial process. Now, as we know, Abraham was no fool. He was the only man in the world who perfectly saw and understood the order of things. It was just him. So again, write this down. 1, always stay the course and always be ready to move. 2, always move forward in calmness and in kindness. 3, when you are called, move quickly and stealthily. Don't make too much noise. So Abraham already knew for 38 years the spot that he needed to acquire. And he also knew very well who the owner of the land was. He did his homework. And so he addressed the sons of Chet collectively, knowing full well that the landowner was right there among them. I am a stranger and an inhabitant with you. Give me burial property with you, so that I may bury my dead from before me. Ger ve'toshav anochi imachem, tnu li achuzat kever imachem ve'ekbera meti milfanai. A stranger, yes. An inhabitant, not yet. But this is his adding, very, very subtly over here. Because when he would pass, he would indeed be an inhabitant of Chevon. Yes, he's an inhabitant over there the whole time. Which is why he asked for a property and not just for a plot. He wanted something more respectful because it wasn't only about the cave, it was about the plot of land as well. So not only did he know that more residents would be coming to Me'arat HaMachpelah, but he knew the importance and significance of the location as well. And the sons of Chet answered Abraham, saying to him, listen to us, my Lord. You are a prince of God in our midst. In the choicest of graves, bury your dead. None of us will withhold his grave from you to bury your dead. They very well knew who this man was. The whole world did this. The whole world knew. They also knew that in whoever's plot he would bury his dead, that person would be blessed, right? Hey, you know who's buried in my backyard. And this is where they state that he is greater than them all. Ish mimeno, a man of us. There is not a man of us that would, deny you. A man of us, meaning the greatest man from us will not be able to withhold from you this request. Now here's where we see Abraham's greatness yet again. And Abraham arose and prostrated himself to the people of the land, to the sons of Chet. And it says, V'akam Avraham vayishtachu le'am ha'aretz. Livnei Chet. It's like there's two groups over here, but they're actually one. He arose even higher than before. He arose higher than before. As he is the Kedusha and they are the Kalipah. And what does he do? He bowed down to them. And who is them? Ama'aretz, to the lowest and to the simplest of the people. But we'll see soon in a minute, something's going on here. While Abraham was setting the stage to wisely get what he wanted, he never disrespected or manipulated anyone in the process of doing so. And, of course, he used his wisdom. But time is of the essence, because a dead body should never remain outside the grave for long. If a person dies during the day, you must put them in the ground by sunset. Now, there are different circumstances that people transfer the body. Let's say, if someone dies in the diaspora and they want to bury their dead in Israel, you got to put them on the plane, or sometimes the family members won't be able to get together in time. But again, nevertheless, when you lay the body to rest, you lay the soul to rest. The soul is not resting until the body's in the ground. And he spoke with them saying, if it is your will that I bury my dead before me, in other words, well, clearly this is what you guys want, right? Listen to me and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Tzochar. Now it's funny, he goes, Likvoret mitim lefanai, shemeuni paguli be'Ephron ben Tzochar. Bring him to me. This is what he says. Im yesh et nafshechem. If it is your will, but it says im yesh et nafshechem. It doesn't even translate this to the English. If you possess it within your soul, is a much better translation. If you possess it within your soul, that I bury my dead. Now here's your urgency. The word yesh translates to have or possess. It stands for Irat Shamayim, Yud Shin Yirah, the fear of heaven or of God. The man that just they call the Prince of God, what he is telling them right now, ever so gently, is this: if you have fear of God for the sake of your souls, you will help me bury my dead and get Ephron, son of Tzochar, in front of me, stat. That's what he just said. That he may give me the machpelah, the double cave, which belongs to him, which is at the end of the field, for a full price. Let him give it to me in your midst for burial property. So, at the end of the field, the edges, the most disregarded part. And in fact it was, but he was downplaying it. Full price. So no one will come afterwards and say that they did me any favors. And that's right, kids. Be very, very wary when someone offers you free stuff. Betochechem, in your midst, so that you be witnesses to everything that's about to go down. Because this one's forever. Now Ephron was sitting in the midst of the sons of Chet. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Chet. They heard, your witnesses, all of those who had come into the gate of the city, saying, okay, so look, he was there all along, and Abraham knew this. He knew very, very well. He did his homework. Ephron was so enamored that the great Abraham not only called for him by name, but honored him by calling upon his father's name, right? Ephron ben Sochar. So enamored by this, and puffed up by this, that he didn't even think to ask how this man had all this information at supposedly a moment's notice. Your wife just died here, you just got here, you know who owns what field and their father's name? Who? They didn't care. You see this? He's like, oh, okay, me. A little flattery goes a very, very long way. And he said, no, my lord, listen to me. I have given you the field and the cave that is in it. I have given it to you. Before the eyes of the sons of my people, I have given it to you. Bury your dead. Take the field, I'll throw in the cave too, right? Because what you want that hole in the ground? What is that going to do you? It was just a cave to him, but he didn't see or smell what Abraham saw or smelt or knew. Abraham heard all this. And he understood that these words were not of Ephron, because he was not the greatest of men. He was the least of men. Remember, they were called Am Haaretz, people of the earth. And this guy's name is Ephron, as in afar. What is afar? It's dust, it's dirt. So from the people of the earth, the dust or the dirt is now speaking to him. So when Abraham heard this dude saying everything right, everything that he needed to hear, it was basically a confirmation for him to move forward, and he knew that God was orchestrating this whole thing. He saw it. He goes, okay, I get it. I know where I need to be. Got to say the right thing, got to listen and pay attention. As a result, and Abraham prostrated himself before the people of the land. Vayishtachu Avraham lifnei am haaretz. But look at the language, and then look at this man. Earlier it said in verse 7, and Abraham arose and prostrated himself to the people of the land, to the sons of Chet. Vayakam Avraham vayishtachu le am haaretz, livnei Chet. Here it says vayishtachu Avraham lifnei, before the people of the land, right? Lifnei am haaretz, as in front of the people and not to the people. Abraham prostrated himself the moment he saw God's hand in this, right there in front of everybody. He doesn't need open miracles, because everything is a miracle. In fact, he was living in a system that what we would call miracles or crazy lucky coincidences, but this is how it is in the world of Abraham. When was the last time you got some good news, right? In the middle of the street or in the middle of a business meeting, and then fell flat on your face thanking God in front of everybody at that very moment? I didn't think so. Me either. Abraham. And yet still, he knew that nothing was for free. And you always have to give something to the klipa, the sitra achra, the other side. Just like in the korbanot, there are good parts and there are bad parts. There are parts that have to be eaten, there are parts that have to be burnt, there are parts that have to be thrown on the ground, and so on and so forth. Just like in Yom Kippur, there's a goat for God, a sacrifice for God, and then there's a goat, a sacrifice for the other side. You have to give every part its due, you see? This way there are no complaints. No one could, hey, where's my share? Everybody gets their share. There is good and bad in every scenario, and again, good and bad after the tree of knowledge of good and evil are subjective. There's only truth and lies, really. Okay, in every scenario, good and bad, we say, even if it's just seemingly good, well, clearly he said the right things, so therefore must all be good. And Abraham was a spiritual surgeon, though, when it comes to separating the two. He could see right through. Look at this. And he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, but if only you would listen to me. I am giving the money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. Not I will give, but I am currently giving. This is not a wire transfer. These are not post-dated checks. I got a suitcase full of cold hard cash or a sack full of silver. Take it from me because I'm just going to leave it here. And Ephron replied to Abraham, saying to him, my Lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver, what is it between me and you? Bury your dead. Now at this point, Ephron reverted back to his, shall we say, dirty self, right? Pun intended. As soon as he understood that Abraham was going to throw the money at him, at full price no less, which he said before, and he was eager to pay. He says, well, okay, dude's eager to pay. Something that he was ready to just give it. Ephron was ready to give it away. He said, take it. But then he's, you want to pay. He wants to pay. Here's your greed that arises, okay? Now, he wanted to give it away not necessarily out of generosity, but rather because of the, on the surface it was worthless, and he could say that he did a favor to the great man Abraham. One man's junk is another man's treasure. And so he upped the price way high. Abraham, of course, knew this. Solomon said, Ecclesiastes 5:9, whoever loves silver will not be sated with silver. And he who loves a multitude without increase, this too is vanity. Vanity. There you go. You ever get these? Hey, my friend, come here. I got something for you. Real good price. But only for 1 minute. Afterwards, no deal. Yeah? All right. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Abraham, being the smartest guy in the room, did not get upset when he saw this dude was clearly trying to rip him off. Something that would no doubt upset each and every one of us. And I don't know that any of us would have taken it. Not this man, though. He understood exactly what was going on. He observed, and more importantly, he listened. And Abraham listened to Ephron. And Abraham weighed out to Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the sons of Chet, 400 shekels of silver, accepted by the merchant. Done. Because even when a seemingly swindler tries to pull a fast one over us, it's still God speaking through them. You understand? Because Abraham did. And that's why he paid him exactly what he asked for, immediately. And why immediately here? Because he knew who he was dealing with in the physical realm, this Am Haaretz person, and that he's liable to up the price in 2 seconds. Oh, sorry, did I say 400? I meant 600. But it needed to be 400, and he knew that too. So he acted, did not delay, did not get upset, nothing. He understood and did it. God is in control. As a result, we have documentation and witnesses, not only here in the Torah, but also in the book of Jasher. It's great detail as well. So we'll read this transaction concluding. And so the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, facing Mamre, was established as Abraham's possession. This included the field and the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within the entire border around. It was to Abraham as a possession before the eyes of the sons of Chet, in the presence of all who had come within the gate of the city, multiple witnesses. And afterwards Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, which is Chevon in the land of Canaan, and the field and the cave within it were established to Abraham as burial property purchased from the sons of Chet. Now, check this out from the book of Jasher. I think we may have gone over this one time before, but look at the detail. We got the names over here. And Ephron and all his brethren heard this, and Abraham weighed to Ephron 400 shekels of silver in the hands of Ephron and in the hands of all his brethren. Abraham wrote this transaction, and he wrote it and testified it with 4 witnesses. And these are the names of the witnesses: Amigal, son of Abishna the Hittite; Adichorom, son of Ashunach the Hivite; Abdan, the son of Achiram the Gemerite; and Bakdil, the son of Abudish the Zidonite. So you have 4 nations just witnessed this taking place. And Abraham took the book of the purchase and placed it in his treasures. Wouldn't you love to get your hands on that? And these are the words that Abraham wrote in the book: the cave and the field Abraham brought from Ephron the Hittite, and from his seed, and from those that go in his city, and from their seed forever, are to be purchased to Abraham and to his seed, and to those that go forth from his loins. Look at this details. For a possession of a burial place forever. And he put a signet to it and testified it with witnesses. And the field and the cave that was in it, and all the place that were made sure unto Abraham and unto his seed after him from the children of Chet. Behold, it is before Mamre in Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan. Love it. Now, let me explain to you what Abraham saw happening simultaneously in the spiritual realm. Something was happening this entire time. We were hinting to it. So he understood this. He heard that. Now we're going to take a peek at that. This is what we all saw. This is what everybody around there saw. Now we're going up higher. Like all things, big or small, personal or public, great world events, or your kid's bar mitzvah, there is always a mirror to these happenings. Therefore, everything you say, everything you think, everything you do, it all plays out in heaven. And this goes for every person alive. There's another level of consciousness that is taking place. And Abraham, he was on it. What does it mean when the word says, you are a prince of God? Nasi Elohim ata. Rabbi Pinchas says, before the righteous leave the world, a divine voice echoes every day among the righteous in the Garden of Eden to prepare a place for that person. Therefore they said, you are a prince of God. Betochenu, among us, because every day we hear of you, and your place is right here, the righteous of Gan Eden. Among the choicest of graves, in the company of the most righteous, he should be counted. Rabbi Yossi ben Pazi then said, after the soul meets them, it is sentenced. Meaning the angel that is appointed over them, the angel that is in charge of the graveyards. And his name is Duma. Now this comes from the word dom, silence. How appropriate. For instance, after the death of Aaron's sons, it was said, Vaidom Aaron, right? He was silent. He didn't protest. He was silent. He was praised for this. So this angel called Silence. That's his name. Who ushers the dead to their graves and ushers the righteous from their graves in the resurrection of the dead, announces among them every day the names of the righteous who are about to join them. This brings a whole new meaning to the sounds of silence, doesn't it? It immediately entreats him to lodge the body in tranquility and safety, rest and pleasure. This is not the angel of death. This is the usher. This is a different thing. He's got his own lists. Which is the meaning of, and he spoke to Ephron. Now, before we go on, let's just explain a little bit more about Duma. Who's this guy? Would he come out of nowhere? No, he did not come out of nowhere. We can read about it in Psalms 115:17, when David wrote of him, Lo hametim yahalleluya, velo kol yardei Duma. Neither will the dead praise God, nor all those who descend to the grave. Duma. He could have said grave, kever, but he didn't say kever. He said Duma. Okay. In other words, he knows who takes him down. See, King David has seen some angels in his lifetime, and it took a very heavy toll on his body. He was, after all, only 70 years old when he passed away, but he was a very, very old 70-year-old. When he looked upon the spiritual world in our physical realm, it sucks your life force. You can't do that. Even the great King David. Moses was the only one who could do this no problem. In fact, we know he ascended into the heavens and descended without even changing his physical human form. Even Elijah, when Elijah goes up and down, he changes from a human form to a spiritual form. Same thing when the angels. But Moses, in his physical form, he went up to heaven and came back down unscathed. Who has heard such a thing? Now, when Abraham saw the angels, he looked upon them with his mind's eye, but they didn't reveal their real form to him. Because he had a complete understanding of the ways of God, he could see the angels pulling the strings. He saw what was going on over here. They let themselves be known to Lot through, it says sort of like almost like a halo type of thing. He saw a beam of light coming from their heads. He knew exactly, because he grew up in Abraham's house after all. So which is why when Ephron was speaking to him, he knew he was having a conversation with none other than Duma himself. He was having a conversation with silence. And why is the angel Duma called Ephron in our context? What do we say the name Ephron comes from? Afar, Efer, dust and dirt. You see this? Because he is in charge of the dwellers of the dust and dirt. And he cares for all the lists of the righteous that dwell in the dust, and he will also bring them out of the dust according to their reckoning. Rabbi Elazar said, when the Holy One, blessed be he, comes to raise the dead, he will call upon Duma, and he will ask him for the enumeration of all the pious, all the righteous converts, and all those who have been killed for his namesake. There are four groups: pious, righteous converts, not converts, righteous converts, and all those who have been killed for his namesake. This reference is in Isaiah 40, verse 26. Lift up your eyes on high, see who created these, who takes out their host by number. All of them he calls by name because of his great might, and because he is strong in power, no one is missing. This is the process that's happening right now. God says to Duma, go get me my righteous, my pious, the righteous converts, and those who have been killed for my name's sake, and bring them. Now, before we go on, I have to address again the righteous converts, right? There's a gerim, ger tzedek, ger toshav. Ger toshav today doesn't really exist because we don't have, Israel, as it were. The state of Israel is not the people of Israel. Not the people of Israel. How should I say this without getting in trouble? We don't have a temple, okay? That's really the bottom line. So you cannot dwell inside here. You are not a Gel Toshav because there are still religious properties for that. There are converts who are not righteous. They are Gerim, okay? These are those who convert for any other reason than the love of God. Meaning for the sake of either their spouse or, if they want to be a Jew, then sure, I'll do it. Yeah, why not? Some do it out of fear of missing out. Well, I got to do it because, and some still have idolatry in their hearts, and they bring it from their other religions in with them. In which case, you may have fooled the rabbis, but, you can't fool God. And if you think that God doesn't see what you're doing, then that's even worse, and you're going to have to pay for that, of course. Now, some convert, but don't live according to the Torah. Unfortunately, I do know some of these. It's not a good thing. Like, why did you go through the whole trouble? Because I wanted to be a Jew. But you didn't even live any way of a religious lifestyle. This is a problem. Why? Because it harms us. It harms the entire Jewish people, and they will be held accountable for that, even if they were sincere in the beginning. Legitimate kosher conversion, but because now whoever wants you come in, you're under the 613 mitzvot. While before, you could have just as easily remained under the 7 Noahide laws and still merited the world to come. Again, even Gentiles go to the world to come. You have 7 laws. You don't need to take the 613 unless you are called. So you got to know who you are. And so those who are counted among the pious and the righteous at the resurrection of the dead will be those who converted simply for the love of God and His Torah. But Duma does not only usher the righteous to their graves and prepares a place for them in the Garden of Eden. Rabbi Shmuel said that the angel Duma ushers the souls of the wicked to be sentenced in Gehenom. How do we know this? King David. David feared when he sinned. He wrote this in Psalm 94:17. Had not the Lord been my help, in an instant my soul would rest silent. Lulei Adonai azarta li, kim'at shachna duma nafshi. You see this? Not that David was wicked, chas v'shalom, but after he sinned, if he would not have been given the opportunity to do tshuva, again, David paid for his sin for the rest of his life, but he was grateful for that, to do tshuva. If he would not have been given the opportunity to do tshuva during his lifetime, he would have had to go to Gehenom, to get cleaned up. Now remember, Gehenom, it's not really just, there's heaven and there's hell. There are realms as well. So Gehenom is a realm of hell. It's the 6th one out of 7, and everyone who goes to Gehenom in the end of days will rise, the 7th realm is called, It's called Abaddon, right? Abaddon, as in like despair. No one gets out of there. But the function of Gehenom is to clean up the souls, which is a painful process, right? Let's say you're going through, you got to take antibiotics, you got to cut, you got rubbing alcohol. I don't know if they still do that today. I still do it. So anyway, and it burns, right? But it's necessary. Now imagine that for your soul because of all the filth that you got on it. So it's a painful process, but once the soul is clean, it is then ready to enter heaven. Because you can't go in there if you got dirt on you. Now, Rabbi Tanchum said that first the angel addressed Abraham, as we can read in 23:10. Now, Ephron was sitting in the midst of the sons of Chet, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Chet, all of those who had come into the gate of the city, saying, now they were afraid of dwelling in the dust, for they had no merit. And who went into the gate of the city? Rabbi Nachman said, those who were written in the list. And so it had been decreed by the reckoning made by Duma. They enter the cemeteries, and by the reckoning he will take them out, for he is in charge of the dwellers of the dust. So do you understand what's going on here right now? While this interaction is taking place in the real world between Abraham and the sons of Chet and Ephron, Abraham is having a dialogue with this angel as he is securing safe passage for his wife Sarah and later himself and his ancestors and his seed after him into the Garden of Eden. As we know, the cave of Machpelah, Ma'arat HaMachpelah, is the entrance, is the gate to Gan Eden. And why is it called Machpelah, double, in the spiritual sense? We discussed it in the practical sense, right? Because there is a terrestrial and celestial Chevon. Just like there is a terrestrial and a celestial Jerusalem, and the same goes for the temple. We have to build the third temple here so the third and final, the temple, can come down from heaven. We have to do everything here first to rectify it up there and then connect the two. And so the sounds of silence spoke and said, "No, my Lord, listen to me. I have given you the field and the cave that is in it." What is the field and the cave? These are treasures and great peace. There is not one righteous person who is occupied with Torah who does not have 200 bright worlds for the sake of Torah once they pass on in the Garden of Eden. As we can read in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Solomon, or the Song of Songs, "My vineyard which is mine is before me, you, O Solomon, shall have 1,000, and those who watch or keep its fruit," Torah, 200, "Karmi shali lefanai ha'elef lecha shlomo, u'matayim lanoterim et piryo," and those who keep its fruit, 200. For they renounce themselves daily, as if they are killed, to sanctify his name and his eternity. Who else does Duma handle favorably? Those who are killed for his name's sake. How is this done? Whoever surrenders their soul to sanctify the name of Hashem, the scripture says that it is as if they were killed daily for his sake. So, what's going to happen? Are we going to start finding worthy causes to kill ourselves for God's namesake? No. But this is also clarified by King David's words in Psalms 44:23, where he says, "For it is for your sake that we are killed all the time, that we are considered as sheep for the slaughter. Ki alecha holganu kol hayom," all day, all the time, "nechshavnu ketzon tivcha." You see this? We are yours. Do with us as you will. We are yours. We follow you. We follow God, period. That's it. Nobody else. And so whoever surrenders their souls according to this verse receives 400 worlds in the world to come. 200 for Torah and 200 for every day surrendering our souls for God's holy name's sake. Were Abraham and Sarah pious? Yes, they were. Were they righteous? Yes, they were. Were they righteous converts? Yes, they were. Did they give their lives for God's sakes? You know they did. They were all the things when the requirement was just for one. And what is the representation of the 400 worlds that one receives? And Ephron replied to Abraham, saying to him, "My Lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver." This is poetic. Now please remember, we are not on Abraham and Sarah's level, but we also don't have to be. Abraham would have believed in God's plan even if he had no clue what was going on, right? In fact, this is how he lived his entire life. Remember? Go there, come here, dwell there, do this, do that. Give me your son. Yes, my Lord, with haste and zeal and humility and love. That's Abraham. Do you think he knew what would be the outcome of any of these things? If he would have, would it have been a test? Now he was able to see these things. He passed all his tests. Abraham was on a whole nother level. He was just kicking it. If we can remember that God is in control of all things and we pay attention, we will know when to fight and when to go with it. It's bigger than you, the individual. It's not about you, unless you make it about you, in which case you cannot be part of us. I understand the confusion and the frustration that's going on right now, okay? It's affecting every person in their own reality. I find it very, very sad. This is a travesty, what is happening. Not what's happening, but how people are taking it. If something is supposedly lost, all it means is that God is making room for something new. Believe it or not, it's our job to assist in this task. How so? meaning that we are given every opportunity to get rid of what should no longer be, good or bad. Otherwise, it will be taken from us, and not only will it be extremely painful, but we will have lost the opportunity to be obedient and working with God. Instead, we're working against God. I've been telling you this for a while now. Everything has a time limit. You have to shift with the shift. We're in the shift, and few people see it. Even if the good things stay too long, they become bad. Proverbs 25:16. If you have found honey, okay, yeah, eat enough for you, lest you become sated with it and vomit it. And sometimes something, good comes out of something really, really bad, or seemingly bad. As we can see with the forbidden relations between Lot and his daughters, which ultimately led to the birth of Ruth the Moabite, right? The great-grandmother of King David. And that had absolutely nothing to do with the merit of Lot, or lack thereof. You have no idea where it's going to come from, or what it's going to look like, or what it's going to be like. You have only your own ideas, which is keeping you from actually seeing what you need to be seeing. It's not your job to know. It's your job to stay the course regardless. Because I can guarantee you this. We are all going to be surprised and humbled in the end. Every last one of us. Okay? So just prepare yourself to be corrected. I am. People love to call themselves prophets. People love to refer to other people as prophets. But if even one of the things that they say, even in the smallest thing, the Holy Spirit, whatever, told me, and it doesn't come to pass, why are these people alive walking the streets? According to the Torah, these people should be put to death. And if you don't, put them to death, then God will, and you will then be punished for listening to these fools. I'm not saying kill anyone. I'm just saying run from evil. You innocent little lambs. Many people, Jews, Gentiles, rabbis, Christian preachers, whatever, Orthodox rabbis too. I'm talking about everybody who's got a thing. They've stated so many things regarding the Messiah that never came to pass. Time's up already. The videos are still up. Nothing happened. These people still have followings. People are so desperate. People are looking to every which way to get answers except the one way that actually counts. And some people, some very, very brave souls, they claim that they even know the identity of the Messiah. And they claim it to the world. What if you're wrong? I understand you don't want to be wrong. No one wants to be wrong. But what if you are wrong? You won't just be able to brush it off later and say, well, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay? There's a very, very specific reason that for thousands and thousands of years it has been written that when Messiah comes, there will be no converts allowed. Yeah, because most of the world has it wrong. Most of the world. And most of the world is going to want to come in when Messiah comes. Just look at the majorities in the world today. And you do the math. You want the truth or you want to be right? If you want to be right, that's okay. I want the truth. So if you are wrong, it means that you have been in idolatry your whole life and refused to receive the truth because you held on to the lie. You see this? And still there are those who worship who they think is Messiah, which has nothing to do with Torah or Judaism at all, because we don't worship men. Never ever. Do you know why? Because it takes our focus off of God. That's idolatry. Yeah. Anyway, America had been given a huge test over the past few months, or the past 4 years, actually. I'm sorry to say, America, My sweet America, you failed miserably. I also understand, though, where the U.S. is coming from. After all, it is a predominantly Christian country. According to Christianity, you put all your faith in a man to save you. Be it anointed by God or not, it's just common practice, and that will always lead to disappointment. Not to mention, again, straight up idolatry. And that's why I said it doesn't matter who wins. If you put your faith in men, then you have already lost. And yet still, as the circus ensues, and yeah, I called it a circus already last week, you continue to lose because you're missing the point of the whole thing. I told you judgment is already on its way, and only when things get rough, then all of a sudden things don't go your way, but you really prayed. Yep, publicly, in gatherings, you really prayed for things to go your way. But if they didn't go your way, suddenly now, don't worry, God has a plan. Now you're on that bandwagon. Who are you fooling here? And yes, I'm very much up to speed. I know what's going on. I find it hilarious. I'm like, yeah, makes sense. When the people of the West pray for a man to save them in the name of another man, what do you think the outcome is going to be? What it is. And yet you still pray what you want to come to pass instead of what God wants. You see, do you see where you have gone astray? Because God will place on the throne whoever he wishes. But if you pray for either one or the other, you could very well be praying against the will of God. How do you know what God wants? You don't know what God wants. I could tell you what God wants. It's very simple. It is whatever it is. That's what God wants because that's what is. Nobody's doing anything except reacting. And I can also tell you what God doesn't want. I also know this because it's what he said. And he didn't stutter either. Deuteronomy 13. Everyone seems to forget and ignore this. Everything I command you, that you shall be careful to do, you shall neither add to it nor subtract from it. Well, we may as well throw that part out the window because it's certainly not as what's going on right now or for the past 2,000 years. If there will arise among you, here we go, a prophet, a dreamer of a dream, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign of the wonder of which he spoke to you happens. God is saying there will be prophets and dreamer of dreams, and things that they say will happen. And he says, let us go after other gods, which you have not known. What is other gods? That means anything other than the practice of the Torah. Worshipping one God directly. Let's go after other gods, which you have not known before. And let us worship them. You shall not heed to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of a dream. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you really love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Testing you. You shall follow the Lord your God, fear him, keep his commandments, heed his voice, worship him, and cleave to him. And that prophet or that dreamer of a dream shall be put to death, because he spoke falsehood about the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, who redeemed you from the house of bondage. No one else can redeem us. To lead you astray from the way in which the Lord your God commanded you to go, so shall you clear away the evil from your midst. For the Lord your God is testing you. And America, my sweet, sweet America, you have failed. How can I say this? Look at the states. This didn't happen overnight. And that's why it's not going to change back overnight or ever. We're past the point of no return already. Are you beholding the shift? No. You're trying to keep things the way they are. You still think your choices have meaning if you choose anyone or anything other than God? Do you understand that both options are a test and neither are the answer? Forgive the harsh words, but you need to hear this. I hope you're understanding my spirit here, okay? I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. I'm speaking to Jews and Gentiles alike over here. God will no longer tolerate idolatry in the world, and we are all guilty of it in one way or another. We better clean ourselves up, because if God has to do it, it's not going to be good. And from the looks of it, yeah. Why do you think we have these parashot, especially now, on this specific cycle, now, how they fit beautifully during these times? What are you focusing on? I know what you're focusing on. You're focusing on the news and what the media tells you, and your fear, and on everything else other than God. Do you have more in common with Am Haaretz, the lowest people of the earth, or do we have more in common with the man of faith, Abraham? Our father Abraham, remember him? When a righteous person dies, a heavenly light goes out, and the world becomes just a little darker. When a righteous person passes from this world, the forces of darkness have every opportunity to gain the upper hand. You better believe they're working overtime. When a righteous person leaves this world, the heavens and the earth weep. Why do they weep? Because they have no purpose anymore. Because when all the righteous leave the world, is there any point for this version of the world to exist? And the life of Sarah was 100 years, and 20 years, and 7 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, which is in Chevon, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to bewail her. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life that he lived, 100 years and 70 years and 5 years. And Abraham expired and died in a good old age, old and satisfied, and he was gathered to his people. The true spiritual power couple, which were second to none, have been laid to rest, but their impact on the world has certainly stood the test of time. The world suffered another loss this week, as one of the most prominent Jewish figures had been laid to rest. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, may his memory be blessed. If I could describe him in just one word, it would be mensch. This is gentleman. This is the guy. You didn't have to agree with him. He didn't have to agree with you, but anyone who came into contact with this man was always left with a feeling of peace, admiration. Who is this guy? Look how he handles himself. Look how he carries himself. He respected all people. He stood firm and unwavering regarding the Jewish faith, regardless of where he was or who he was speaking to, and was an incredible model human being of derech eretz. We can all learn from this man because he was a remarkable student of our father Abraham. There are these quotes of his going around right now. He said this, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I believe it, but wow. The test of faith is whether I can make space for difference. Can I recognize God's image in someone who is not in my image, whose language, faith, and ideals are different from mine? If I cannot, then I have made God in my image instead of allowing him to make me in his. Abraham and Sarah would be proud. I'm sure they are. and so are we. We thank you for your years of dedication and sacrifice. You have departed humbly from this world, and we will see you once again in the sounds of silence. Thank you for joining me. Don't lose your head, okay? God's in control. Have a Shabbat Shalom.